welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living on this beautiful, sunny, toasty, warm day. It's great to see you all here today. So let's start our service and start this day of celebration by standing up and singing together our congregational song, which is on the far left side of your program. And so it is. Thank you, Jill. And so we continue to breathe and allow ourselves to be still and know that divine presence. As we relax our bodies, go deeper into the heart space, and listen to the words of our sacred reading.
From The Money Keys by Karen Russo. What reality are you serving? If you choose to place your energy, attention, and resources into cultivating a relationship with your creative source, you are serving a reality of wholeness. This reality is based on the premise that you are already at one with the infinite, eternal, loving source of life itself. You are more than your physical body, personal history, and possessions. You are a spiritual being with an essence that never dies. You are permanently at one with a friendly and ever-expanding universe. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. And so let us feel the sense of that oneness, that at-one-ment with that permanent, expanding, friendly universe, with the good of God, with the power of Spirit, with the grace of the I Am presence. And as we breathe in and breathe out, our awareness of that I Am presence renews itself. It takes hold in our hearts. We see it not only for ourselves, but we see it for everybody sitting in this room. We see it for all beings everywhere. We see it for the entire universe, that everything is one, that everything is engaged in this dance of wholeness, and everything is remembering who it is. So we sing together, I am remembering who I am. And then we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, gently opening our eyes in love with what is, as it is, and so it is.
One of the many, or one of the few, insignificant, or ego charging through. Where do I belong in everything I see? Am I part of something, or is it part of me? I am not just a drop in the ocean. I am not just a wave on the sea. I am love, I am life, set in motion. The whole ocean in a drop, that's me. Part of the problem, or part of the truth. Why would I testify to someone else's proof? Where do I belong in everything I see? Am I part of something, or is it part of me? I am not just a drop in the ocean. I am not just a wave on the sea. I am love, I am life, set in motion. The whole ocean in a drop, that's me. Sacred and profane, would smell as sweet. Divinely human, oh, never play it small. The world is at your feet. Keep your head in the stars and your toes in the sand. 'Cause you are not just a drop in the ocean. You are not just a wave on the sea. You are love, you are life, set in motion. The whole ocean in a drop. I am not just a drop in the ocean. I am not just a wave on the sea. I am love, I am life, set in motion. The whole ocean in a drop. The ocean in a drop. Every single bit of the ocean. That's me.
I saw a post on Facebook the other day that I really, really liked. It was written by Leanne Wood, who was Larissa Stowe, who used to, her band comes here periodically. Leanne Woods used to be her manager. And the post said, "Summer, what is your point?" Just go away. Nobody likes you anymore. I like that, don't you? Feels very real and heartfelt to me at this particular moment in time as I see people fanning themselves. Fan away. I'll try and keep it short today so we can get out and get to the beach where it's 3 degrees cooler and all that. Anyway, the name of my talk this morning is called A Divine Backup Plan, and it's based on a line from this book, The Money Keys, written by Karen, who I mentioned is coming to do a workshop and a talk for us next Sunday. In this book, Karen says that our worries require a backup plan. Perhaps you're familiar with that scenario of worrying and trying to find a plan to make it all right, right? Now, certainly some of our backup plans are legitimate and useful. There is a Sufi saying that is trust in God, but tether your camel first. I like to say trust in God and tether your camel too. There are very valid and legitimate backup plans. If you have health insurance, if you have car insurance, if you are planning for your retirement, those are all legitimate backup plans. Also, how many of you, I thought of myself with this, since the Northridge earthquake, I have been meaning to get my earthquake preparedness kit in place, right? Anybody here in that same position? Meaning to do it for 1993. So those are legitimate backup plans. I had a backup dog at one point when Stella started getting a little bit older. I didn't want to spend a minute of my day without Stella in the house, so I got a backup dog whose name is Barty, but now he's my main dog now, and the other one is the backup. But they're both the center of my universe. It's kind of embarrassing to admit this. Even more embarrassing, I had a backup plan for my husband. But it's not about it's a plan. It's not about what I would do but it's more of a plan about what he should do, because should I? Because, I don't know, 20-something years ago, before working here, this is going to drive me crazy.
I'll teach you to talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. He said that. Never mind, backup plan. Backup plan. Here we go. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for letting me live the words of my talk in the moment. Anyway, what I was about to say about my husband was that several years ago, I'm good. I can use this one. Thanks. Several years ago, 20 years ago or so, we used to visit lots of different churches when we first moved into Southern California. And we were at this church, and you may have noticed that my husband tends to cry sometimes in church. In fact, there was an incident of crying as you were singing that beautiful song, perhaps. Yes, probably he was not the only one, correct? It was so beautiful. Right? So we went to this church. The minister had beautiful things to say, and my husband was doing his thing of crying. And I went into the ladies' room, and when I came out, there were these foxy young women sort of hovering over him, cooing and saying, "Oh, sir, are you okay? You're so sensitive. Are you all right?" So we, dispatched with them, and then we walked to the car, and on the way to the car, I had this thought, and I said, honey, if anything ever happens to me, all you need to do is just go to church and cry a little, You'll meet somebody right away. And his response to me, I thought, was perfect, and I don't want you to think ill of him, so I'm going to tell you that I was being somewhat facetious, and so was he. His response to me was perfect, because he said, "Hey, Bon, you know what? I can start at your funeral." Ba-dum-bum. It does happen, by the way, sometimes. Talk to me about my extended family. It does happen. So anyway, those are all, perhaps excluding the last one, semi-legitimate backup plans. But what I'm talking about are the backup plans that we make that just consume us. Anybody have one of those where you're just worrying about what could go wrong? Something shifts in your life, something changes, and you come up with every possible scenario and every single possible backup plan that you can. And that consumes our thoughts, and we're spinning and spinning and spinning like a hamster on a wheel, thinking about that and only that. And you probably know you may know the old Science of Mind song called "Our Thoughts Are Prayers." Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. So worrying and creating excessive backup plans is like praying for the thing that you do not want to happen, right? It's saying a prayer for that which you do not wish to happen. And I'm not saying that your thoughts are going to create everything that you think, because very little of what we worry about actually happens. But what you're doing is that you are diminishing the power of the present moment. You're diminishing your power to be conscious in the present moment and use this vast creative power that belongs to all of us, this whole ocean of creative power that belongs to all of us, in a way that is truly constructive, in a way that truly blesses your life and serves the greater good. So that's what today is about, that divine backup plan. Maybe instead of worrying and obsessing about future catastrophes, we can start creating a divine backup plan. What I want to do first, though, is talk a little bit about the source of that sort of perseverating about what could go wrong and what we're going to do about it. And I am correct that I'm not the only one who does this, right? Okay. All right. So, I had a very striking example of the human condition the other day. I was out hiking with my dogs, as I do in the mountains frequently, and I was in a fairly deserted place, and I had them off leash. And I happened upon this man who was walking, and his dog was off leash. So usually that's a signal to other people with dogs that your dog can be off leash with the other dog. But he quickly put his dog on leash, and I couldn't get to mine on time. And my dogs are fine with other dogs, but they were very exuberant and a little bit overwhelming. And it was fine with the dog, but it was not fine with the man. He started yelling at me, ripping me a new wholeness, as I like to say. And and normally, I just did what I needed to do and then kept on moving. Normally, I would have carried him with me for hours, for a 6-mile hike, and then he would have, in my mind, gotten in the car with me, and I would have looked over to where my husband usually sleeps in the bed at night, and there he would be telling me what's wrong with me and how I was irresponsible. But instead, for some miraculous reason, I passed him by and kept on walking, and then all of a sudden, a wave of compassion came over me, and I realized, he was yelling because he was afraid. He was yelling because he was afraid. And that's really the only acceptable way for some of us to express fear, is by anger and yelling. And so I think that a lot of us yell at life or try and control life or try and make life behave. We joust with life simply because we're afraid. There is a fear within us that doesn't have to be in there, but it seems to be part of the basic human condition. It just is. So I asked myself, what is it that we're so afraid of? And I looked in my own life because I felt like it would be helpful to be specific about fear, about what I'm particularly afraid of. And right now, it seems that when I look at the things that I tend to make these obsessive backup plans about, all the planning and perseverating that I do, I'm afraid of not knowing what's going to happen. Anybody else? Afraid of uncertainty? And really, when you think about it, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to be afraid of. I'm not putting myself down or putting anybody else down, but we really never know what's going to happen. Life is bigger than all of us. So I looked a little bit deeper with that, and it seems to me and a lot of mystics and psychologists and scholars that are greater than me, that the fear behind many of our fears is the fear of death, because that's really when we don't exactly know what's going to happen. We've read lots of books. We had Anita Morjani come to this center and talk to us. We believe, and I believe every time I do a memorial and every time I think about death, that something good is beyond on the other side of the veil. But there is something within us that doesn't exactly know what's going to happen. Ken Wilber says that we're afraid to live life to its fullest when we are afraid of death. And many other people say that death is at the root, the fear of death, and particularly the fear of dying alone, and we all actually cross that river alone. That is at the bottom of a lot of our fears. It masquerades often as fear of scarcity, fear of lack, fear of abandonment, fear of resentment, fear of rejection. I have a question for you. How do you like my talk so far? Woohoo! It's going to get cheerier, I promise you. So, again, all of these things have the capacity to happen to us. We can lose things. We can lose loved ones. We can lose our lives. We're all going to go sometime. I'm going to wind up dead one of these days, and my husband's going to be crying in a church trying to meet hot babes. And but again, the truth is that we don't necessarily control what happens when it happens, but we do have a great amount of power when it comes to being with how to be in this great mystery called life. How will we be in this mystery called life? Will we think of every bad thing that can possibly happen and then create a backup plan or some type of contingency for it? Or will we make a better backup plan, a divine backup plan? A backup plan that roots us in wholeness and holiness. And that's really what I believe the divine backup plan is. The divine backup plan is wholeness. Wholeness, understanding that there truly is only one life, and that life is God's life, and that life is perfect. Wholeness, meaning that we are the fullness of God right here and right now, and the fullness of God is right where we are, and because God is invincible and invisible and omnipresent, omnipresence cannot be divided. So the power and presence of God is in everything, in the darkness and the light, in the joy and in the sorrow. The power and the presence of God lives and moves and has its being through every single condition we have, but we have to look for it. We have to find it because our minds immediately go to what is wrong and what feels wrong and what doesn't feel pleasant to us, and we rivet ourselves to that. I think it's time for us to do an object lesson that I haven't done in this church for quite a while, for several months now, but it's a good reminder. I want everybody to touch your own elbow. Notice I said your own elbow. Touch your own elbow. Okay? And I have a question for you. Are you touching your body? Yes. Are you touching your entire body? No. Okay. So the metaphor for me, you can let go of your elbow now. Whew, that was a workout, wasn't it? The metaphor is that so often the things that are pokey in life, that poke us, are like elbows, right? And we touch that, and we think that that's the entire body of life. But really, in truth, we are only touching a small prominence of life, something that just happens to be getting our attention. When attached to this elbow, there is an entire body. We don't lead with our elbow. We don't say, "Hi, I'm Bonnie, I'm pleased to meet you." But we tend in our minds to lead with the pokey things that are bothering us, that are getting our attention, that are causing us to obsess and stress. The key is to back up and recognize that this thing that is stressing you out, that is hurting you, that is poking you, that this thing is only a tiny, tiny fragment of infinity. It is a mere drop in the ocean, and it does contain every single thing that is in the ocean, but it is only a tiny, tiny part. And the key is to focus on something other than this thing that is sticking you, that is making your mind stick and go and go and go and go and go. You know, and when we do that, we are empowered. We can stand with the mystics when we do that. We can pray the Hindu peace prayer that says, God, lead me from the unreal to the real. The unreal is all of the fantasies that we are making up about what could happen and what we're going to do, and all of our stress and all of our thinking that, you know, just because I'm thinking this is going to happen, this is it, this is so real. No, that is the unreal. It leads us to the real, where we can understand that the wholeness of God is fully at play in every single moment. The fullness of God is always at play in our lives, and it is not just that thing that is bothering you. We can stand with Carl Jung, who said, life is a luminous pause suspended between two mysteries, and the two mysteries are really one. I just paraphrased Carl Jung a little bit, but I don't think he'll mind. Life is a luminous pause between two mysteries, birth and death. Whatever is in between, those is the pause, that is life. That is the parentheses in eternity that Joel Goldsmith talks about. But what comes before birth and what comes after death, that is a mystery. And that is a mystery in a good way. That is a mystery that is open to infinite possibilities. That is a mystery that is greater than what we can imagine. And the two mysteries, before birth and after death, they are one. And we can stand with the wise Yogananda, who said that the only purpose of death, and when he talks about death, he acknowledges that yes, there is death, but the only purpose of death is to teach us that there is no death. We take that in for just a moment. The only purpose of death is to teach us that there is no death. And you know, in a lot of old metaphysics, people will say, you'll hear people when they're starting out, they'll say, oh, you know, there is no death, there is no illness, there is no lack, there is no adversity. Well, there is. It's very real to the human side of us, but it is just an elbow. And it is there to teach us about the opposite of the condition. And so that's what we do. You know, we live in this state of wholeness. We allow what's happening to drive us and to move us and to gently usher us into this state of the awareness of wholeness. Whatever happens to be poking you in your life, elbowing you in the ribs, whatever is causing you to fantasize in a negative manner, whatever is stressing you out, that is an invitation to do something different. That is an invitation to embrace wholeness. That is an invitation to say, yes, I am a drop in the ocean, but the whole ocean is within me right now. So call upon that power and allow it to rise up within you and lead you to new and creative ways to be in the present moment, because the present moment creates your future. The practical way of doing this, Reverend Karen has lots of suggestions in her book, some of which we've heard of, you know, practicing gratitude for everything, blessing everything, loving what is, prayer, meditation, seeing a practitioner, contemplation, spiritual study, all of those things. But my favorite form of application for any of these principles that I teach, every single one of these principles that I teach, is to take the meditation off the mat and allow your life to be your teacher. The good news is that you will have many opportunities to practice. Have you noticed? Right? So whenever something happens in life, you know, the words of Shakespeare, these are these churlish winds that blow against me. See, I'm just like totally messing up Shakespeare right now. I'm going to hear about that at home. These are not my enemies. These are my counselors. These are my counselors. These are to lead me into greater and greater life and greater expansion and greater expression. The first thing we have to do, though, is to notice that it's happening, because it seems so normal to complain, and it seems so normal to worry, and it seems so normal to allow the vicissitudes of life to move us into that place of anxious suffering. We need to notice that we're doing that and notice that it is optional. Eckhart Tolle says that anxiety thinks it's helping. That's why we do it. We think all of this nervous planning is helping. As I said before, some planning is appropriate, but when it's getting out of hand, when you're whipping yourself up into a frenzy over something where you really don't know the outcome, that's anxiety trying to help, and it's not helping. It's helping you by inviting you to remember that there's something else to do. So notice what you're doing. Notice that when you're stressing about something, notice your attempt to justify it, right? Well, the other things in my life have worked out, but this one is different, right? Have we been there? I know I have. Notice your attempt to justify it, and then perhaps if it helps, to give yourself something physical to do, touch your elbow. Say, this is just an elbow. This is just an elbow. This is not the whole body. This is not the whole body of truth. There is something greater here for me in this right here and right now. I am going to stop touching my elbow. I'm going to spread my hands and my heart wide. I'm going to open my mind, and I'm going to allow the wholeness of spirit, the fullness of God, to fill me with a new way of being with this. The Course in Miracles says, God, help me to see this differently. Help me to see this newly. The Psalm says, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Renew a right spirit within me. Renew a spirit that is aligned with grace. Because truly, that is the most profound thing that we can do in our lives, is to align ourselves with the wholeness and the grace and the being that is. That is your divine backup plan. Everything that happens is going to be a catalyst, an impetus, an invitation to align me with the grace of God that is mine here, right now, the wholeness of spirit, the fullness of goodness that bestows itself upon me simply because I exist. That is your birthright, folks. So let's use it. And from that place of knowing, perhaps we can extend the teachings of our brother Yogananda, who said, the only purpose of death is to teach us that there is no death. We can say that the only purpose of lack is to teach us that there is no lack. The only purpose of loneliness is to teach us that we are never alone. The only purpose of resentment is to teach us that there is nothing to resent. The only purpose of adversity is to teach us that there is no struggle, that there is no adversity that is too big for God. The only purpose of unworthiness, which is at the heart of a lot of our other issues, the only purpose of unworthiness is to teach us that we are completely worthy as divine children, beings of God. Bits and pieces, drops in the ocean of that divine creative being that made everything. Why in the world would God create you if he or she or it did not want you to be here in all of your fullness? Why? Why? Answer me that question. Why? There is no answer. God wants you here exactly as you are, with all of your ups, with all of your downs, with all of your beingness, with all of your craziness, with all of your saneness, with all of your sorrows, with all of your joys. All of it is part of this incredible, beautiful mosaic that is the life of God, that is ours, that is powerful, that we can have if we would only receive it. So let us receive that right now. Let us pray. I turn within. Let's gently close our eyes and take some nice deep breaths together, just breathing in and exhaling. And trusting that there is one perfect life. That life is God's life. That life is our life right here and right now. That life is the life of everything that exists. It created the universe out of itself. It created our world out of itself. It created us out of itself. That life is purpose, it is power, it is wholeness, it is fullness, it is grace. It is darkness, it is light, it is joy, it is sorrow. It is the wholeness that is everything. So right here and right now, I connect with that wholeness and I claim it and call it as my own. And I speak in the first person, but I speak for all of us, knowing that there truly is only one of us here, and its name is I Am. So together we know the spiritual truth that if there is anything that is stressing us or causing us to fret or worry or fuss, that is simply an invitation, that is a gift to allow us to open our hearts to something greater. We forgive ourselves for having a challenge. We forgive others for seemingly creating a challenge for us. We just let go. And we allow ourselves to recognize that connected to whatever it is that we're going through, there is a greater picture, a bigger glory, a greater grace, An immense love that is beyond my words, beyond our imagination. An immense love that consumes us and holds us and guides us every single step of the way. Let us connect to this love right now and know that it is the truth of our existence. Know that it is our being. Know that it is our very life in every minute of every day. That there's no place for it to go. It is always with us, and it is who we are. And so I connect to that love, and I allow it free reign in my heart. I surrender to it. I let it play through me every single day. And in this spirit of love, I reconnect with what is whole and holy and perfect and complete. And so I am blessed by this teaching. We are all blessed by this teaching, by this word, by this powerful spiritual center, by the energy vortex that is created every time we come together. I give thanks for what has occurred here this morning, for all of the open hearts and all of the transformation that I know has happened through each of us. I give thanks for the impact that we have upon our world through our own spiritual work, knowing that as we heal ourselves, we participate in the healing of the planet. I am grateful for this center and everyone in it. I bless all paths to God, churches, temples, mosques, and ashrams. And with a heart that is so filled with gratitude and so blessed, I release these words into the mystery, and together we say, and so it is.
I can cry about my day, say everything went wrong. No one sings their song my way. It's true. Or I can laugh about my day, the good it really brought me, the patience you taught me each step of the way. Yeah. Whatever the question, love is the answer. Whatever the lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. I can cry about my life, say everything goes wrong. No one's ever on my side. Or I can laugh about my life, the kindness you show me, the love that has grown me each step of the way. Hey, yeah. Whatever the question, love is the answer. Whatever the lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. All the ways I tried to save my broken heart, all the days I cried alone into the wind. I never knew love was right here from the start, and all I had to do was go with it. Whatever the question, love is the answer. Whatever that lesson, love is the answer. Whatever way we choose to live, love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer.